success. And my engagement with telecom started deepening after that. So when 1992, when government decided mobile telephony, I already knew the subject of telecom for nearly 10 years. And in 94, we got the license in Delhi, and we launched India's first mobile phone here in Delhi in 95. And it's not a long time, it's only 12, 13 years back that we entered into this business. We were passionate, we understood this market well. More importantly, we understood the needs of the customers very well. So quality of service, quality of our reach through distribution and network expansion were the main areas on which we developed ourselves. We were a small company, and we were always told telecom services is for only very big houses, needs deep pockets. And it's true. I mean, this year alone we'll be investing 16,000 crores in telecom just for 1 year. And we have been doubling our network capacity every year. Markets responded very well to our brand, to our offerings, and we fiercely competed in the marketplace with the public sector, MTNL and BSNL, and very large Indian corporates from established business houses, and have created today for ourselves the premier position in Indian telecom industry, with having the largest market share and even being ahead of the public sector now.
But how do you think suddenly from nowhere the telecommunication as a sector, in otherwise gloomy scenario of infrastructure development, how can just this dimming light came up?
I think 2 or 3 factors. One is, like we discussed earlier, this was a central subject. The entire governance of telecom was at one place. So Department of Telecommunications, Ministry of Telecom, from time to time looked at the policy and injected right doses of policy propositions. 99, 2003. So we've had those interventions from the government, and state had no or little role to play in telecommunications. Secondly, this was one infrastructure, especially on the mobile side, where the physical infrastructure build out was relatively easier than roads or other physical infrastructure. However, I must say that we've also put out 60,000 kilometers of fiber, which is a physical infrastructure, and millions of copper lines into the ground. But largely the infrastructure developed on mobile telephony, which was relatively easier because you are using the airwaves rather than on the ground.
We'll take a short break. Don't go back. We'll come back very quickly. Thank you. Welcome back to our edition of Top Shot, in which today we have Mr. Sunil Mittal talking to us about various issues. So it's a very interesting point that how telecom succeeded. But there are 2 areas in which I think all the infrastructure projects get bogged down is on water and land. It's just 2.2% of the land and 4% of the water. Now, is it because telecommunication generally per se did not involve too much of land? Was it also one of the reasons why it succeeded?
Yeah, there was really no need for land other than the digging of fiber, which also you dig and close.
Absolutely.
So there was no requirement of land in that sense.
So that could be one of the, but that also brings us to a very interesting point about telecom has succeeded, telecommunication as such, and power has not. How do you actually, can there be a parallel and can there be a recipe for success for power sector drawing from the experiences of telecommunication?
I think two things happen really. Telecom can be built on an incremental basis, which means you can actually set up a 10,000 line exchange and then take it to 10 million over a period of time. In power, you have not seen developments of very small, tiny, efficient power plants, which means you could start with a very small 1 meg plant and then going up all the way. Most of the efficient production of power is in large mega power plants. They required large amounts of money, and if you go 10 years back, it was difficult to raise those kinds of money. So whether they were hydel projects, large massive hydel projects, like you see up in Jammu and Kashmir, or you saw the mega thermal plants, the involvement was mainly from the state side, public sector state side. Very few private sector participants were there. Then the entire distribution of power was almost entirely in the hands of public sector. Some privatization efforts have happened there as well. Thirdly, I think the issue was that the state government intervention and the capacity of the state electricity boards to pay up the private sector producers in time, to keep up the commitment, was always in doubt. So given that scenario, it could never be compared with telecom, where you had very clear direct user charges established, you bill customers, you collect from customers, and you didn't have to go through a SEB to deliver your product to them. I think that was a big difference.
So this is something which, so therefore we are comparing oranges with apples actually, in terms of two sectors. You know, agriculture is one of your other forays. Now you want to get into, already got into agriculture, and you want to make a value added chain in terms of retail business. So one thing is, in India, 18% of income comes from agriculture, which is shared by 62% of the population. The remaining 38% people share 82% of the income, and that's why India's real poverty profile emanates from this important issue. How do you crack agriculture now?
I think agriculture must be and has to be cracked. I mean, we have to fix that piece. And if you heard the Prime Minister at the Congress session, he said the state of the farmers is a cause of concern and we need to fix it. And I know personally that the Prime Minister is deeply concerned about what's happening in the rural India. Himself coming from the background of agriculture and rural India, he has that direct connection. We went into an experiment 2 years back to produce high value crops, and we did, most of the experiment was in Punjab. And I must say that we have come close to realizing the pain points of the farmers. And we were in a relatively prosperous area in Punjab, Haryana, Uttaranchal, bit of Rajasthan. There are serious issues. And the issues come back in the area of infrastructure. There are no cold chambers, there is no cold chain, there is no cold trucking, there is no perishable centers at the airports. And for 2 years we have struggled and have lost sizable amounts of money for that project, to come to a point where we have realized that doing just pure fresh movement is going to be tough. We have to value add, we have to process these vegetables and fruits, make them into puree or sauces or juices or whatever else, to then export them out of the country. And that change is now happening with our new partners, Del Monte. And I have to say that you are absolutely right. Very large number of people are seeking a smaller pie and shrinking pie every year of the nation's economy. India needs to become a food capital of the world. Given that we have the largest irrigated land in the world, the second largest arable land in the world, there seems to be no sense in India not participating in the food program of the world. You have tiny countries which have billions of dollars of income on agriculture. India must generate that, and once the farmers start getting onto the high value crops, they will be able to have significant incomes. Just if you take the colored capsicums, you can have 5, 7, 8 times higher income levels than a regular capsicum or a regular crop. So, but this is a long drawn out project. It's not going to happen in a hurry. Governments after governments in the next several years will have to come and fix this area.
Like telecom, there has to be stability of policy also.
But I think the government must be brave enough and bold enough to invite private sector into the rural areas in a bigger way. Private sector will not take away the benefits of the farmers. In fact, they will add muscle and power in the hands of farmers. I'm convinced about that. Our own experiments suggest income of the farmers went up by multiple times wherever we were, rather than the other way around.
Yeah, in fact, but at the same time, right now, we are also becoming the biggest importer of the food grains into the country. So unfortunately, that's what is happening. The other issue is of retail trade. How relevant is organized retail to India's development? Because unlike in other countries, retail has always been private sector in India, like in China, for example. So it's not that private sector is coming into it. In fact, the organized retail will probably displace some of those who are actually into retail business. So how do you trade off in terms of benefits and cost?
I'm pleased you asked this question, because this debate is going on and it's a very active debate in the marketplace. Indian retail is entirely in the private sector, other than the fair price shops, the ration shops, which also have a different view on, but we will leave that for the moment. But they are in a disarray. There are small, tiny shops which are dependent on one hand on the middleman in the mandis, on the other hand the large established manufacturer suppliers. Do they have any say? Do they have any leverage in their business? I can say practically none. They receive goods, there's the MRP, they sell on that, make a small commission and move on. Can India's infrastructure be developed on the basis of these millions of small shops? The answer is no. If that would have been the case, it would have been developed. So when we say there is lack of complete cold chain and infrastructure, it is because there is nobody demanding that. You inject organized retail, we will not accept into our organized retail shops perishable goods coming on a regular truck. It has to come on a air-conditioned freezer trucks into your system. That will force the need to develop those. Those trucks cannot move if there are no cold chains, cold chambers at the farm level, you see. So this whole chain will get established, and this will require billions of dollars of investment. That will not come if there is no demand on the other side. So it's a chicken and egg problem. Secondly, there is wastage of about 30-35% of fruits and vegetables. And we talk about millions of tons. 35, 40, 45, 50 million tons of wastage, which can be brought back into the mainstream, and therefore you can lower the prices, customers can have more availability, and more importantly, you can export a lot of that as well. Farmers gain because they get a better price. The customers gain because they get higher quality and lower price. So while on one hand we can say mom and pops of this nation may get impacted, I personally feel they will not, but let's put the may factor. The sons and daughters of this country will gain a lot. Now therefore you have to debate, and I think this country's mom and pops have always sacrificed for their children rather than for themselves.
No, but absolutely, these are definitely the benefits and gains that will accrue to the large number of people, including farmers and consumers on the other side, and you will be in between. But is it not in the interest of the country as a whole that you as organized retailers do a study and find out how many people will be actually displaced from jobs if at all organized retail takes place and penetrates into all corners of the world country? At the same time, how that benefit will be offset? Is it not good idea to do a study of this?
Suresh, we have done extensive studies. In fact, we are now waiting for the career final study to come in. Extensive studies have been done. We are absolutely convinced that there will be no impact.
But why don't you share it with the people at large?
No, we have. We have been making these presentations and studies, including from CII platforms. If this will impact large-scale mom-and-pop stores, I will not be in this business. I don't need to be in this business to displace anybody. Mexico, in the last 10 years, organized retail has gone through the roof. At the same time, the small shops have increased by 2%. In India, we have $300 billion of retail trade. This is going to go to $500 billion in the next 10 years. I don't think so more than 100 billion out of this will come from organized retail. So the unorganized retail will move from 300 to 400. In Thailand today, only 9% of fruit and vegetable is sold through organized retail, which has developed very well. 90% is outside organized retail. I don't think so anybody needs to worry about this issue.
So what you are really saying is it's going to benefit all.
Absolutely.
It's not just win-win situation for all, and the country as a whole will benefit, everybody will benefit, so we should try to do it. So Smita, just coming to the end of this program, and I'd like to know, you come from such an illustrious family of politicians. Your father was a member of parliament, my colleague in the parliament, so you are befittingly taking part in the Lok Sabha TV program. Would you like to enter parliament one day?
If you would have asked me this question some years back, I would have said maybe. Today my view is no, because a role in public life is something that as being a son of a politician comes naturally to me, but that comes through the role as CII president for a year. I am on several government bodies. I work on several task forces, even set up by the Prime Minister, on Jammu and Kashmir, on the Trade and Industry Council. I am on various educational boards, IIT Mumbai, Governing Board, IIM Lucknow, co-chair of the IIT school here, Bharti school. So I do a lot of stuff which is around the public areas. But my role, I think, principally will come through a Bharti Foundation, where we are trying to develop 1,000 village schools now. Work has started. In fact, first few schools have rolled out now. And that will be the biggest private sector intervention in a education area.
Not for profit.
It's not for profit. It's completely philanthropic contribution from the family and friends, and it's moving forward. I would therefore say in the near future, there are really no plans to enter politics or parliament. But you never say never to anything. But all I can say is today, as things stand, it doesn't appear to be.
So the present members of parliament can say they are safe because there is no challenge coming from you.
No. It's such an illustrious body, and my father has been a 3-term member of parliament. When he passed away, he was a member of parliament in 1992. I know that the parliamentarians do a great work, do a great job for the nation. While many a times people question what parliament does, I have seen it from close quarters, from intimate quarters. The committees, the subcommittees, the standing committees, the entire debates that happen in parliament enrich a nation.
But it's a very interesting point you made that if one wants to contribute to public life now, he need not necessarily enter politics or for that matter parliament. Is it something changing face of India that in many ways you can contribute to public life, which was not possible when your father became a member of parliament, because the only way of serving society at that time probably was through politics. Is it something which is changing now in India?
I would say yes. Today there are many avenues from where you can serve the nation, and Parliament is one very effective body to do that, but equally there are several other areas from where you can contribute to strengthening that process.
That's a very interesting news for those who want to do many things, can actually wear different hats and do it. Mittal, actually, just the last question. You have won so many awards worldwide. I think you must have lost count of those. Probably you will have to buy a museum wherein you can keep all those trophies and medals that you acquired. What do you think is your next destination? Because you don't want to join politics. You already done so well. You are the largest telecommunication service provider in India. What is your next destination?
Well, I hope I still have many years to go and can contribute from my corner of building transformational projects. I like to do business which has a deep impact in the society. Telecom has done that. You go around the country and you see in villages laborer women on the roadside using mobile phones. You feel very good about it. I feel in the area of agriculture we may be able to do some revolution. In the area of organized retail, we believe we will bring benefits to the nation. So I think we would like to do many more projects in the next 10, 15, 20 years of our life, which will have impact on the society at large.
And just concluding remark from you, do you think you will be able to see a completely poverty-free, corruption-free, prosperous India in the next 20-25 years?
Well, if I have to lean back on my own experiences of 31 years, I would say I will be very hopeful, because I have walked those corridors of government bodies, and the time I have wasted there in the first 10 years, thankfully today's entrepreneur doesn't have to do.
That was an investment, not wasted.
Yeah, but today the generation doesn't have to do it. Today the entrepreneur comes up, he has to go nowhere, he can start his business. That change has happened. So people who have not looking at the past 30 years will not be able to be so hopeful, but I see, because I experienced and walked that journey, I think next 20 years will be glorious for India.
I think thank you very much, and we end this program on this optimistic note of seeing India a different type of country in the next 25 years, not just because Goldman Sachs said it, but because Sunil Mittal is saying this now. So thank you very much, Mr. Mittal, for joining us today, and thank you very much, viewers, for joining on this program. We'll see you next week with a different personality who will talk to us in this program, Top Shot. Thank you.